I am so excited to have both Gina and Allie here today. I am really good friends with both of them. I've known Gina for a couple years just through doing JABS, and I've known Allie since college. And we were in the advertising program together back at SU. So we've gotten to know each other really well over the past few years. And I'm actually going to see her this weekend and meet her dog for the first time. So I'm really excited. But enough about that. I'm really excited because of just their overall story. So as all of you know, Gina and Allie are really fearless businesswomen, and they started JABS in the middle of the pandemic. Originally, JABS began at New York City's Equinox Fitness Clubs, where Gina was just a freelance trainer during her off hours from her corporate sales job working at a cloud systems integration company. But after she saw that JABS was growing exponentially in size, and really there was high demand for this hybrid kickboxing dance strength class, JABS slowly grew to have 6 other instructors, among them Allie, who really helped manage growing the business. And in the middle of COVID-19, they decided to create an LLC and transfer their skills to Zoom and teach Zoom classes. The stay-at-home order inspired both Gina and Allie to leave the corporate world. Gina formed the LLC, and Allie left her job in advertising so that they could triple and grow their classes schedule. And they've become full-time instructors along with some of their other instructors that really paid off in the end. Their risk has taken the online fitness world by storm, and word of mouth marketing has grown their presence from a customer base of 200 jabbers to over 2,000 jabbers now, with 8 to 12 classes per day. And each class has anywhere from 150 to 500 attendees per class. So we're really excited to have the two of you here today. And I'm just going to pop right into it with the first question. So, taking a risk and starting your own business is terrifying, obviously, but can you talk to us a little bit about how both of you found yourselves going from jobs in corporate America to pursuing fitness and building JABS from the ground up? Was there like an aha moment for both of you that really made you guys both take that risk of leaving them and pursuing JABS?
Hi, everybody. I'm Gina. So I'll start with this, but I'd like to start with a little bit of a backstory, which is that like 4 years ago, I was in commercial real estate, and it was a job that I just absolutely I hated it. I was really bad at it. Like I was there for 1.5 years and I didn't lease any spaces. Like I was genuinely really bad at it, but I'm not a quitter. So I just kept showing up, and for someone like me, I was like, no, I need to make this happen. Like I need to lease a space, but it was just getting to a point where it was making me legitimately depressed. So at a certain point I did leave. I quit with nothing lined up. I just had run myself so far down to the ground that I should have quit way sooner. And I realized that now, but after I quit, I was like, well, shit, now I just ruined my mental health and I have to repair this. So I decided to take intentionally just be unemployed for 3 months until I could get my mental health to a place where I was a human again, because I had lost my personality and lost myself, and I didn't even know what I was interested in. But during that time, I knew that I loved fitness, and I had no idea what I wanted my career to be, but I thought it would be fun to teach workout classes. So I simultaneously got my fitness certification and started working with a headhunter at one of those firms where you basically show up and you're like, here's what I'm interested in. Can you please connect me with a job? But I didn't even really know what I was interested in professional wise. So I had to literally be like, these are my skills, because I didn't even have any idea that I wanted to go into tech sales or anything like that. So I was like, here's my skills. I'm this, that, this. I'm not this, that, and this, and connect me. So I'd wake up every day for 3 months. I would study for my fitness certification, and I would talk to my headhunter and see what opportunities she had found for me, and started interviewing. And around the same time Equinox told me that they would hire me to teach, I also received a job offer that I wanted to take. So the timing was great. So I was like, well, look, everything's happening at once. I'm like slightly less depressed. And I took on both opportunities. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is because from day one, from really the first week that I started working at my tech company, which was called MuleSoft, mule like a donkey and soft like software. That's because we take the donkey work out of integration. So I miss saying that on the phone, thought I'd say it here. So during training, I was like training at the job from like 7 a.m. to like 8 p.m. and then I would go to Equinox and I would practice my teaching. And then once training was over and I had my job, I was like sneaking out of work, going to all these different auditions for the different formats I wanted to teach, like sneaking out of work for like 4-hour time periods, which is not okay at the culture that we had. So it really was like, and I was obviously lying. Like at the time, I had to tell them I was at doctor's appointments. I could not say like, hey, I know it's my second week, but like I've got to go train for my fitness. Like that's not what you do when you're new to a job. So from the start, I was like always sneaking around. I know, and I'm not a dishonest person, and I'm being honest by telling you that. But it kind of got to the point after a year and a half where I had completely run out of doctor's appointments. Like I always was like, I got a foot appointment, and then I've got a follow-up appointment for my foot. And then I was like, okay, I use the foot. And then I was like, dentist. And it was just like getting to a point where it was out of control. So once it was just too out of control, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So I guess my aha moment was when I ran out of doctor's appointments to say that I was leaving for.
So every doctor's appointment was really just like the end of, you know, lying and pivoting over to taking it full time. That's
Yes.
awesome. What about you, Allie?
So for me, I had sort of a similar story, but I, ended up taking Gina's class. I was really lost. I had pretty much I tried every hobby under the sun. I was committed to finding something that I loved. I tried like yoga. I did an improv comedy class. I tried guitar. Like I was one of these people who I genuinely wanted to find something I could be passionate about. And I was not going to stop until I found it. And so it took me a long time, but eventually I stumbled upon Gina's classes and I really fell in love with it from just day one. And I actually went up to her after my first class, and this is ridiculous. And I said, wouldn't it be like, do you need any instructors for your class? And I'm not a fitness instructor. I barely take any classes, but I was like, I love what I see and I want to be part of this. And she was like, ha ha ha. And it was kind of a joke for a while. But eventually it just kind of started to grow. And by the time I got my certifications, by the time I practiced and, trained, it was probably another year later. And at that point I was working in a corporate job, which I actually liked. I worked at Gray in advertising. I was a project manager. And I really loved it. But for a while, I was similar to Gina, living a double life. I would teach, in the morning, and then I would go work a 12-hour day. And similarly, I would sneak out during the day for auditions and whatever. And, I remember one day, I, of course, had to, you have to change, you're in auditions. And I came back to work, and my boss looked at me, and she goes, your shirt's inside out. And I was like, so that's so weird. Like, why? So strange. And so I kind of was like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And so towards the beginning of March, I had a feeling that I wanted to leave and do fitness full time. But it wasn't until the pandemic where we started growing larger, and I realized I was spending as much time on my corporate job as I was doing JABS. And that was the moment where I was like, I'm working, double time here. And my joy is coming from JABS. As much as I like my corporate job, my joy is coming from JABS. And so that was my aha moment where I realized that the amount of time I was spending on both was actually equal, which is a problem when you work 12 hours in a corporate job and, you're doing it the same for JABS. But yeah, that was definitely my moment of, I think that I need to go for it.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. So thinking about that, when you guys did have that aha moment and started to really seriously pursue transferring kind of from corporate to the world of fitness, what sorts of conversations did you have with others? Did you have lengthy discussions with your friends, with your parents, with life coaches potentially, and kind of what was their reception and what was their advice and what were those reactions like? I'm curious to know, because that's a huge risk.
Yeah, and I think that you're going to hear two different answers here, which is great for everybody, because I think sometimes you'll go to a speaker and you think whatever they say is like end all be all, but you're going to have two completely different approaches here. So my parents, they just weren't really into me leaving corporate. My dad is a big stock market junkie. At that time, my company got bought by Salesforce, and every day he was like obsessed with telling me about the stock market, things that I don't even understand. And I was just like, I didn't like care about the money. And he was just so into it, and like they just weren't really supportive of me leaving. So I was like, okay, like I want to leave. So I just made the decision. I was super quiet about it, pretty private about it. I remember I had already made the decision to leave, and I was like halfway through a vacation with my friends in Denver, and I was like, by the way, I'm not, when I go back, I'm not going back to my company. And like I just made the decision really personally. I didn't really ask anyone else. I just followed my gut. And I knew that like if it really failed, I could always go back into software sales. Like I was like, the worst case scenario is I try this, it flops, and it's not like I lose all of these skills in software sales. And if I don't go back to Salesforce, I can go back to another tech company. So I was always confident that there was a plan B, because let's say if any of you are at a job right now that you're not sure if you want to be at, you might want to go pursue a passion. You still have all these skills. They're not just going to evaporate into thin air off your resume.
My experience was a little different. It was, when I made the decision, I had spent at that point a year and a half sort of showing the world, telling the world that I love JABS, and my entire Instagram was dedicated to it, and it was a very publicly known thing. And so I had this moment of, I've now taken time to make my life very public, and I've explained, how much I love this. And I did have a fear in the back of my mind, what is it going to look like? And I shouldn't have felt this way, but I'm human and I felt this way. And I thought, what is it going to look like if I fail? And what are my friends going to say? What are my parents going to say? And ultimately, I had a lot of conversations with my friends, my parents, and my parents were very supportive. They wanted me to do what I was passionate about. Obviously, they had concern. They wanted to make sure financially I would be okay and logistically, but I think I was my own barrier, to be honest, because just for context, my brother is like a academic superstar. He is, Harvard undergrad, Harvard grad, Harvard law. So I'm used to feeling like I have to live up to a certain level of like academia and professionalism. And nobody was looking to me to maintain that standard except me. I was the only person that was like, well, success has to look like academia or a corporate job. I was the only person who had that stuck in their head. And I think I got out of my own way a little bit, and I was able to just go for what I loved. At the end of the day, I was like, I'm not going to fail. That's not an option. I decided that that's not an option for me. I love this too much. It's not going to fail.
That's awesome. That's like a mindset that I'm in currently. Like, it's just like, don't act like you're going to fail, act like you're going to succeed, because there's a greater chance of success versus failure. So that's something that I think everyone should practice, because it's a great way to kind of just guide yourself through life for sure. So, not that I want to bring up the nasty topic of COVID-19, but I'm going to anyway. COVID has really, forced a lot of us to rethink a lot of things in our lives. For some of us, it's, just our personal lives and how we need to grow personally. For others, it is, pivoting your career, figuring out what you want to do next, things like that. So with that in mind, I guess what led you guys to create a completely independent business in the middle of the pandemic? And do you think that the pandemic was really a catalyst for making JABS such an overnight success in the world of online teaching classes?
Yeah. When COVID hit and people were just forced inside versus now we social distance and hang out, people were really craving that connection. And that is something that we offered, because in our classes, you're in, I mean, just like this, you're in the chat the whole time and people are making all these like jabstagrams and connecting with each other. And it just became this connection tool. So I think, and it happened really organically. We never made anyone like make any jabstagrams. They really started to do it on their own. And I just think that like, in addition to the workout being great, we provided this amount of connectivity that like now is really sticking, and people have met some of their really good friends online. So the power of community has been really important, and something that I don't want to say that we capitalized on, because that's like, that isn't really what happened. It really happened on its own, but it's something that JABS has always been a really strong community in person, and it just happened to translate online really well. Yeah. Oh, do I worry about what happens after COVID? Yes, yes, to a degree, because so we don't know if our audience is about to go back into their gyms, right? Like their gyms might open and their favorite instructors might be back teaching, and they might go back, and that might not happen, and they might want to stay with JABS. So we have to really play it day by day, and I can't jump on decisions right now, like, for example, leasing a studio, because if our clientele all wants to stay online, especially because it's like a third of the cost online, then I need to put more eggs in the online basket than in the retail location basket. So I would love to spend my time right now planning and like doing CAD drawings and figuring out every little inch of the studio, but I don't even know if we should have a studio right now because of what's going on. So it leaves me in this position where I just have to be super alert of the news and what's happening with fitness studios. And when it does come time to make that decision, like studio or not, and like when the studio is going to happen, I'm just going to need to like hit the ground running and move and build it out and go really fast. But yeah, I do get nervous about that.
I will say the one thing that I don't think Gina's giving herself or like whatever enough credit for is that prior to COVID, I think what existed was very strong. Like we wouldn't be where we are during COVID if it weren't for the fact that the base and like the in-person like relationships, like those relationships that people are now forming online, they very much happened in person. And that was actually why I fell in love with it, because I realized that this was a community of people that actually cared about me. They cared about my goals. And that wasn't something that I had seen in the fitness world. And I think that is just it's a huge like marker to me when people actually care about you. Like they care about your goals, they care about who you are. And that I think is what makes a difference in a business, is that it stops feeling like a business and it feels more like a community and a family, because they pay attention to their people. And that was what originally drew me in. And I think that's probably something, I mean, I know that that's something that will continue in person, even if it's smaller than whatever existed online.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think just knowing that you guys did have the client base before the pandemic really helped with driving that word of mouth marketing. I also like, I noticed like kind of in my research of jabs, like leading up to this, that like there's a lot of jabbers who actually like have like jabber XYZ name in their like Instagram handles. So like the community is real, like it is totally real, which is awesome. So I do have a few more questions, but I'm actually going to pass it over to Marcus for a few minutes to see if there's been discussion in the chat. It looks like the chat is very bumping today, but wanted to see if there were any questions from the group. And if you guys have any questions for us, feel free to ask them as well.
And I guess I have a question for you guys in terms of what you're thinking about and your passions and what you might want to pursue next. Like, is there anything that you feel like is getting in the way for you or preventing you from taking a risk towards what you want to do?
So I recently decided to also leave my stable corporate job and go back to school. So it's not really as risky as, starting my own business, but it is leaving a job stability. And my name's Lexi Rook. I work at Anheuser-Busch. So I work at our commercial innovation team. It's growing. It's fantastic. Very stable job. Of course, people are never going to stop drinking beer. So, and I recently decided to go back to school to become a chiropractor and kind of enter the health and wellness arena. And I would say my biggest hesitation, for me, I had to, kind of similar to you, Allie, overcome a lot of I have to tell people I'm leaving Budweiser and deal with why are you leaving? It's such a good job. What a great company. And I think I wore that stamp on my shirt very proudly, all the while not being happy every day. So I think a piece of that, and then of course too, is always a financial risk, right? So I'm sure everyone is in different situations around their own finances and maybe having a support system behind you, but I always think that's kind of the biggest risk I'm taking here.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, when I, imagine my parents or like friends or generally, like admittedly, there were people that when I told them I was leaving, they're like, you're leaving your stable, corporate, successful job in the middle of a pandemic? Really? Like I definitely got a few of those. So I get it because it was a risk. So I think a lot of it, at least for me, was just separating who I was and what I was passionate about from my career and from how people saw me, and making that separation and sort of saying to myself, what these people or like whoever, what people think of me is separate from who I am and what I'm passionate about. And when I'm successful in what I'm passionate about, those people will not be questioning me anymore. Or if I, make a mistake or I, quote unquote fail, at least I was brave to try. And at least I took steps to try when other people would have been afraid to.
And Ali, that's just a great answer. And I have another question from the chat for Ali and Gina. So Julie asked, how did you gain the skills to open your own LLC? And where did you two find the resources?
So it happened really fast. Our business went from around 150 people, but I was working for Equinox. The LLC didn't happen until April. And so it went from 150 people to literally thousands. And we just needed to, I was Venmoing my instructors. I would just Venmo them after their class. After one class, it wasn't even every 2 weeks. It was just oh, they just taught, shot them a Venmo. They just taught, okay, Sammy taught, I shot her a Venmo. And it was just getting to the point where we absolutely needed it. It's really hard to find resources to open an LLC. I hired just people that I knew. I know somebody who's in finance, and I'm can you help me? And she's now works part-time for JABS as my finance and operations person. And then I hired a lawyer who was also a jabber. And then I have a trademark lawyer, and the trademark isn't there yet, and it's been 2 years, and probably need to figure out a new lawyer. And so you have to just use the people who are in your network, and sometimes they work out, like my finance person, and sometimes they don't, like my trademark person, and I'm gonna need to find somebody else. So if anyone knows a trademark lawyer, please help me out. And yeah, that's it. You just have to use your network. I'm sure there's resources out there that can connect you with people. There's got to be some kind of matchmaker online, but I don't know about it yet. So, and the other thing was just having general leadership skills. I feel I do have some pretty good leadership skills from the perspective of always putting my employees first. If my employees aren't happy, then the jabbers aren't going to be happy, because my employees teach classes way more than I do. So I just put their success, Allie's success and everybody else's success, at the top. When I wake up every day, if I have a huge task list to do, everything my instructors need is at the top, and everything else, even customer stuff, is underneath it. So it's just prioritizing them, because they're the face of the brand now.
And I also think tapping into what you know and what you've learned is so often, I think back to you know, Gina and I will have a conversation about like music licensing, and something from Syracuse communications law will pop into my head. And I'm like, you know, I think we need blah, blah, blah. Like Gina and I will joke that like I'm JABS PR or I'm JABS like communications or, you know, whatever. But I think it's taking the experience from, you know, the corporate world, and same thing for Gina, just like taking the experience that you have and thinking, how far can I get on my own with this? Obviously, you know, if you're not a lawyer, don't like be a lawyer. But I think just remembering that you're smarter than you think and you have skills that you can apply in creative ways that maybe you didn't think about.
So if I could jump in and ask a question, funny enough, I'm also getting ready to quit my corporate job and go to law school. How do you balance the financial risk of following your passion versus the stable finances that you'd have following a corporate job?
You go first.
Okay, I was just planning on doing fitness until I like ran out of money. And if I ran out of money, that's when I know that's like kind of just whatever, but that's really what it was. I took a pay cut when I went from Salesforce plus Equinox, because I was working 2 jobs, to just teaching Salesforce, or sorry, to just teaching at Equinox. And then I started making more money, and then now I'm back down as a business owner. So it's definitely hasn't been steady. Like right now I'm making like less than I have in since I had my original first job out of college. And yeah, so I'm still like, you know, I'm 5 years out of college and I'm making the least I've ever made. So but I love what I do, and I don't really spend money on anything. Like I just don't spend money. So like I like pay my rent, you know what I mean? Like I'm paying my bills, but outside of that, I just don't spend
Gina
money.
spends her money on nothing. She's not lying.
Yeah, I haven't bought anything. I can't think of the last thing I've bought. Yeah, so I just save. Yeah.
At least for me, similarly, I think a lot of it is about, you know, trying to forecast. Like I had sort of felt like this was something I wanted to do for a while. And so I was, you know, trying to put money into savings. And then ultimately it's also, I, you know, made lifestyle changes. I lived in Manhattan for the first 4 years. And as soon as I knew that I wanted to pursue fitness, like now I live in Hoboken. And I'm like, great, there's like extra money back in my pocket that I, you know, didn't have when I lived in Tribeca. So I think a lot of it is, and you know, not everybody's going to have the flexibility to do something like that, but I think just looking at your own situation and sort of reevaluating, okay, what can I live without? What lifestyle changes can I make? And yeah, it is a risk. I mean, like I said, people kind of looked at me like I had 10 heads when they were like, you're quitting your job during quarantine when everybody's getting laid off. Are you okay? So there's some risk. Absolutely.
Well, I feel like you two touched on 3 major things. First is leveraging your network. That is extremely huge for you too. You mentioned finding a trademark lawyer, even though they're not doing well, you might have to fire them, but you have a huge network. You had a friend from Syracuse that was in finance, and basically acting as your CFO. And I think that's a great lesson in this. Always nurture your network. You never know who you know that has skills to help you achieve your goals. The second thing I heard was they didn't have a process in place, but they were just going. And Linda, just knowing her stories, and Roger, being small business owners, sometimes you just have to go, and then you establish the process. Sending people Venmo, that's just so funny because I live off of Venmo. Anybody want to Venmo me? I'll take that. But it's just so great to hear that. And then the last thing is forecasting. So both of you look at your situation and say, hey, I want to pursue happiness. I know being an instructor, having a fitness company is going to make me happy. What can I live without to make my dream come true? And I think that's huge.
Yeah, I just want to say you would be so surprised the amount of things that you can live without. It's really crazy. Like quarantine, like I just literally have been wearing the same, and Allie can attest, the same couple of outfits, and I like right now I just moved back in with my parents to save money. Like you can, like I finally am done paying my rent in New York City. You can live without a lot of things and you don't know until you don't have the money to spend it. And I feel happier. I'm honestly like the happiest I've ever been, and I like have the least amount of material things, if you will.
And I also just want to say, I think it's very easy for us to, you know, sit here and be like, just pursue your passion, like do what you love. But it's also like there's a huge recognition of the fact that it does take time and that it's so much easier said than done. I actually, for the longest time, I genuinely assumed that I was not a person that was ever going to get to pursue what they were passionate about. I just said, you know what? I'm a pretty smart person. I'll work in advertising. My life will be fine. And I never ever thought that I was going to be one of those people that was allowed to do what they loved. Mostly because I didn't know what I loved. I'm telling you, I tried 1,000,001 hobbies. I felt ridiculous. And I was like, when am I going to find what I love? Like, how can I do what I love? I don't even know what that is. And that's a really frustrating thing. So I think allowing yourself the time and like the years to find what you love, and then to like be patient with yourself. Like it's not going to happen overnight.
Gina, I've got a question. As a business owner, so you started a company during quarantine and you had to create a virtual culture. And culture is one of the hardest things, and it doesn't matter if it's a company of 5 or 500 or 5,000. So how are you what is the culture of JABS, and how are you cultivating it every day virtually?
I'll start answering, but Allie will probably also have an amazing answer to this. So I'm a very transparent leader. Like I will post even if I'm having a night where I'm like up till 2 a.m. doing whatever it is that I'm doing. If it's like editing my instructor's programming, or it could be just a lot of different things. I'll show that I'm awake at 2 a.m. And I think that people see the hard work and they respect it. I've also made mistakes along the way, and I've, had to apologize for things, or I've had to say like, oh wow, we went about this wrong. Like for example, like just a quick recent example, we switched booking systems, and 2 weeks before I was like, everyone's got to use up your 10 packs, we're switching booking systems. And then we got like all these emails from our customers being like, but I'm injured or I'm traveling, or I can't use my 10 pack, like this is so unfair. So then I was like, I had to like do like one of those, I'm sorry, I didn't consider everyone's unique needs. If you need this, like we will accommodate you, we'll give you the one-on-one, like we'll transfer your credits, we'll do whatever you need. So like there's been things where I'll make a decision that I think is fine, and then our customers will like be like, no, you can't do that. So I just have to like own up to the making mistakes. And I've gotten so many messages from our customers being like, it is so amazing how you take your feedback with grace, because like they've started to understand, okay, Gina's not perfect, but she's always listening. And having that relationship with my customers has been really important. We also don't let them walk all over us though. Like we have like ground rules. Like if we get into class and we're like, do not write in the private chat. Like there's things that we don't want them to like write in the public chat. Like when they're like, I can't hear you. We're like, can you write that in the private chat? So we just set some rules with our customers. So there's just this like beautiful respect that we have, like, because it's managing thousands of people is hard. Like there's like thousands of people who are taking our classes every day. And we're like, don't message the instructor 2 minutes before class asking for their link. Chances are they're really nervous, freaking out about their class, and they can't like pull up the link and send it to you. So we just had to kind of set some boundaries between customers and instructors and leadership. And now that we have, I think that the relationships are really, really strong. Allie, do you have anything to add on that?
I think just the fact that the culture really comes from like the top down, honestly. And I think that's been something that Gina has set from day one. And it's something that now not only do we as instructors and employees follow, but it's a tone that now the people that take our classes follow. Like we've seen people just be so like encouraging, warm, friendly, community oriented. And I'm like, there's no way that would have happened if that wasn't the tone that was set from Gina, like from leadership. So I think the culture it's so important to realize like who you are as like a business owner, or like me as somebody that, is very visible within the business, realizing that everything you say and do matters, because it will affect how people see you, and people talk, friends have friends, and how you put yourself out there it sets a tone.
Yeah, and something I've learned is people love supporting the team. I think if it were just me, people wouldn't, I mean, like, I know that they love me, but they wouldn't be as excited about it. They love seeing the team. Like yesterday, I taught a class and 4 of the instructors were on it, and I let one of them guest teach a song, and like we make it this big collaborative thing. And then I taught like a song that Allie choreographed, and I'm like, this is Allie's song. And like we just have this team going, and people like, because they see leadership being a team, like the 6 of us, they want to be a team themselves. And I think creating this whole team environment, and we always say it's a team sport, like you're showing up, and just we've created this like this massive global team.
I think what I also noticed too is like the instructors that you have are all very different. So there's like a niche for anyone joining JABS, which I think is really cool.
Like me and Allie, sometimes we're so different. Yeah, like I'm
So
like,
different.
Like she posted this like Instagram caption the other week that was like, if you need to take breaks in class, like take your breaks. And I read it and I was like, and everyone was commenting. Everyone's like, yes, oh my gosh, like I love taking breaks in class, like if I'm tired or whatever. And I was reading it and I was just like, see, I don't really like when people take breaks in class. Like I was like, I just
Gina
want
is like, no break, no break. And
Yeah,
we
and I
kind of
was
like
like,
balance each other out.
So, and then I questioned myself and I was like, well, wait, if everybody wants like breaks, should I be telling people they can take breaks? And then I was like teaching my class and I was like, listen, like with Allie, you can take your break. With me, we're not, and like we'll kind of play off of each other's different rules. And there are people who like want to have that grace and be a little more comfortable, and they probably don't take my classes, but they probably do take Allie's classes. So because of that, we're able to have so many more jabbers than if it was like just my teaching style or just Allie's teaching style.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can just think about like the like fitness classes that I've taken over the years, that it's like I don't want to be told that I'm a tree rooted into the ground on my spin bike. I want to be told to pedal faster. Like just tell me to pedal as fast as I can till I can't breathe and I'm like dying. So definitely think that that's perfect, because it's like then you find the instructor that's right for you. It's great.
Yeah, I think like embracing who you are and not being afraid of that. Like when I was the first instructor to join Gina. And so for a while, I genuinely thought I need to do what Gina does. Like this is the example that has been set. And slowly I realized I need to embrace the same values, but I also need to be myself. And I think that's huge, especially as somebody that was like being more of a follower, being a follower of somebody else. You have to still be yourself. Me teaching with like no breaks, that's not me, and it's not authentic, and that's going to come through. Like what's more authentic is like me being me. And I think knowing who you are and standing up for that as you proceed that's where you'll be most successful. Not trying to be somebody else, but being exactly who you are and letting that be an asset.
Yeah,
So we have
Allie's really leaned into her self. Allie, I think it almost happened when, like, once we actually had like four to five instructors, I think you were like, oh, okay, like, Sammy's doing her thing over there. And I think like seeing that gave you a little more freedom to be like, wow, I can really be totally different than Gina and still teach this fitness class just as awesome, if not, better, because it caters to people who maybe don't like my classes. And I think like I've really seen Allie lean into her personality, and I would just highly recommend that everybody else out there does the same. Like maybe right now, even at your corporate job, you have a boss and you think you need to like act exactly like your boss or do what they're doing. But if you really lean into yourself, like your authentic self will shine through and you'll feel more at peace and you'll be able to excel more if you're being yourself. Yeah. Easier said than done, but.
And Ali and Gina, we have a great question from the chat. Eileen Marcus, she was one of our past presenters. She had a workshop on how to manage difficult bosses. and she asked a question around what are your plans for monetizing living the jabber's life? And Eileen, if you want to ask your question a different way, please unmute your mic.
What are our plans for monetizing on the Jabbers?
Yeah, like you have
Yeah.
done something incredible, right? You've built, like Linda said, you built a culture, you've built followers. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to monetize that. I see you have merch coming and you already have plans, but you know, I off the top of my head, I'm thinking jab playlist, live the jab diet, do this what we do. Like there are a lot of ways, you know, regardless of stepping into a gym, that you can keep your followers engaged and in a subscription.
Yeah, no, that I really appreciate you asking that question because I definitely don't think enough about it. I've gotten I've had little spurts of time where I've been like, okay, we can make this much money on this class if I open up this many more spots. And then when I started focusing on that, I saw our quality slipped. And so I actually don't focus on revenue as much as probably like a lot of probably like any business owner. I'm really focused on just delivering the best classes. And you are totally right. And I need to start being more of a business owner and thinking about like if we offer a nutrition plan and you know what I mean, like we could monetize off that. What I will say is like I hired this person who's like an expert in mental health and she did this program and I got like a little bit of money off of that because she was using our clients, but she had like 100 people who did her program. It was like an 8-week program where she helped them manifest their future. And so I like partnered with her and I need to tap into that more. So I'm going to tell you, I'm not doing that really well right now, but I really appreciate you reminding me that I need to do that. So thank you.
And then I saw in the chat, I think Roger would like to ask a question, so we'll pass it to him. Sorry,
Yeah,
Marcus.
it's very interesting what you've built here. It's exciting. I know you guys are both full energy and kind of front focused on the business. I hope somebody is looking at the back end of the business, the structural side of the business. For instance, when you're talking about Venmoing instructors, is somebody thinking about doing 1099s for those instructors? Is there a business structure in place? You know,
yes, we now
you have the right liability protections when somebody gets hurt, that kind of thing. So I hope somebody's thinking about that for you.
Yes, we've got, I mean, my like, I'm very proud to say this, so I'll say it. Like, I've offered Allie and 2 of my other employees health insurance. We have benefits. We're on like a very like real payroll system now. And we have, you know, workers' comp and we have insurance. So if anybody gets hurt taking our classes, like we're, you know, it's not on us. So we have like all of the legal things in place. There's one more piece of the puzzle that besides the trademark that we need to tighten up, but we're almost there on it. So yeah, we're definitely making sure to set up the business in the right way. The Venmo thing lasted about a month and it was just getting unsustainable. I had like this crazy Google sheet. And once I was on like the 100th thing, I'm like, there's got to be another way to do this. So, but thank you for that because it shows that you care that we're doing things the right way. So thank you, Roger.
And I also just want to point out that one thing I didn't mention, and you know, Gina went there, so I'm going to go there. I quit my corporate job knowing that I wasn't going to have health insurance. So I just want to be very honest and transparent about that. And we, you know, months later, you know, I nearly cried because, you know, a couple weeks ago, Gina surprised me and said, you know what, guess what? We're going to be able to offer you health insurance. And it was such a relief for me because I turned 26 in 2 weeks and I had started to sort of plan for what my options would be. And I was getting a little nervous. But I think, you know, that was again, an added element of risk that I had to take on and just know that that could be coming. So luckily we have a different scenario now, but wanted to just throw that out there.
I would say you two are truly an inspirational story. I would say, and after this call, leverage Eileen and Roger. Roger is Linda's husband. He has over 20 years of business experience at several businesses over his time. Eileen Marcus, she managed over thousands of people. So if you ever want to leverage someone for back office or front business support, reach out to them. I know they're willing to help. We are at the 7:50 mark at this time. If Nicole, can you drop the feedback poll in the chat? Like I mentioned earlier today, we want to hear everyone's feedback to continue to create content that our DLE community wants, and we want to keep bringing in new faces. We have a ton of new faces on this call right now. I want to pass it over to Linda because she has a few announcements, and then go back to Gina and Ali for last words. Linda?
So I love the culture of community, guys. And that is in essence what we've created in the DLE, and it will carry you so far. We started our culture in 2008, and it has just morphed and grown and gotten so rich through the years. So congratulations for really, really emphasizing community. I was trying to count how many times you said it, but it is the essence of your culture, and it'll unify people regardless of geography, and that's what you want to keep doing. So you don't get trapped up in the bricks and mortar. Keep doing the virtual geography of community. Couple of things. So in the spirit of merch, we are unveiling. You'll see a couple of our DLE folks wearing our very first DLE merch. And Homer is establishing a DLE merch image for us, and we're going to go and start creating a DLE store. Our hats, first item up there, the breakfast hats. Nicole's going to be managing the online store, but if you're local and you want to purchase one, let me know. It'll be in the DLE office. Two things, and I loved about the focus on well-being, because it is going to be the subject of one of our workshops coming up. Actually, it's September 30th, and we're doing a workshop of Get Grounded in Your Best Self. And it's all about the whole spirit of well-being. And it's actually going to be an active workshop. In other words, we're going to be doing exercises and breathing, exercising and stretching during it. And our speaker is Trini Houghton, who has a wellness business called Ripple Effect Consulting. She's a wellness coach. She's based in New Hampshire. So please tune in. We're going to start registration, Nicole, on Monday with that. We'll get information, everyone. And we've got two very cool programs coming up in the Breakfast Club in September. One is going to be a group discussion, and the topic is going to be breaking the ice, how to talk with strangers. And if you've read the Gladwell book, we're going to really kind of build off of that and talk about, it's one of the hardest things people are doing right now. We're on a screen. How do you break the ice, whether it's in person or on a screen? But that's going to be one of our programs. And the other one, our speaker is actually on. He's on the West Coast, California. So it's 5 o'clock? No, 3 o'clock. What time is it there, Lou? It's really early. But Lou Alexander is going to be speaking with everyone on really honing your curiosity, and about how one question can change your whole life, which it did for him. Went from unemployed to a career in sales, major career in sales, to just launching his own company, Big Ass Jogger, which is now online doing tons of merchandise sales. So when Ali and Gina, you start getting your merch ready, Lou's a really good resource for you too on this one. And he also wears a lot of orange. Lou, why don't you say hey?
How you guys doing? Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, it's 4:53 right now, so I'm staying very stealth because I got a 1.5-year-old right now that can wake up anytime, and I don't want him running in and beating up my computer while I'm on it. So how you guys doing?
We look forward to the program with you. So stay tuned, guys, and now I'll throw it back to Ali and Gina.
Absolutely.
Any other last words of encouragement for our community?
I also just want to jump in really quickly for our double dippers between the culture chat and the breakfast club to give a reminder that next Friday we will not have a culture chat due to the Labor Day holiday. So that'll be back 3 weeks from now.
I think the last thing I would say is just don't go into anything thinking that you know exactly what you're capable of, meaning that you're capable of more than you think. I think I put limits on myself for a while, and I knew I was smart, but I didn't really know. I thought there was a limit to that, and I thought there was a limit to my creativity. And I think the moment that I put that limit aside was when really good things started to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I would challenge each of you to ask yourself of like, a risk that you've taken in the past, like just any risk, whether it was professionally or whatnot, and ask yourself, like, did you succeed or did you fail? And you're probably going to say, yeah, you know, I turned out okay. And then I would ask yourself, what's another risk that you've taken? And you're probably like, oh yeah, that one worked out too. And I think you should just remember that you have a track record, right? You have a track record of taking risks and, you know, making it out on the other side. Maybe there was struggle and hardship that you went through with that risk, but you still got through that risk and you are where you are today. So I would just keep taking the little risks. I know you're all like kind of smile. I see your faces right now. And it's because you're realizing, you're like, yeah, shoot, every risk I've taken has been okay. So I would just keep taking trust yourself, and thank you all for listening today.
So, Ali, do you have any last words?
Just thank you. Thank you to Jesse, Linda, Marcus, Lauren. Thank you guys, everybody, for having us.
So my text is blowing up telling me these are amazing girls. Yes, you are. I love it. Good for you guys. Anna says she wants to be your best friend. I'll ask for her because she's thanks for inspiring. We love morning inspiration. I know it's early, but 7 a.m. on a Friday, but you get, as Beth says, Beth has a great endorsement for the DLE Breakfast Club, but this is what gets us inspiration in the morning. So thank you very much for, you know, helping people think about getting out of their comfort zone. Risk, we face risk every day. And everybody knows one of my favorite movies is Creed. And I love when Michael K gets Stallone takes him and makes him look in the mirror. He says, I'm going to leave you two alone for a little while because this is your biggest competitor right now. And that is, you reinforce that message again here. So thank you, guys.
Also, can I just say, I'm super impressed by the pricing structure. You guys have managed to keep this unbelievably cheap.
We have. I have been, so just for everybody else, so our classes are $5, $7, and $9. We're the cheapest in the market, but I think that's really helped. And so what it's done for us is people can only jab, versus if I was charging 15 a class, they could probably only afford 2 to 3 a week. But because we kept our prices so low, they've become extremely brand loyal, but our quality's so high, so it's still not like a cheap brand. And we also are really, we don't really run sales. We had one sale, but besides that, we're not like a discount brand or anything like that. We are like, these are our prices. But yeah, it's allowed for a lot of brand loyalty.
It's also worth noting that class was $35 in person previously. So it was very much like a premium soul cycle-y whatever. And we realized that we needed to be, you know, we have to be more accessible.
There is
Ladies,
that's the noose of operating costs when you have bricks and mortar, by the way, guys. So keep thinking about that.
and ladies, before you drop off, Gina and Ali, you both have great Instagrams. Can you drop your social media, your website? I'm pretty sure there's a ton of people interested in the services, and Cooper brought up a great point. Your classes, the quality looks great, and for $5 to $7 and $9, people are getting the deal. So I'd like to finish off and say thank you for joining, making SU proud. Happy I'm part of that community. Keep dominating. And Linda.
Thank you, everybody. This was great. Jesse, where's Jesse? Thank you, Jesse, by the way, for introducing them to our community. It was Ali and Gina came to us through Jesse. We love introductions like this and encourage all of you within your networks making introductions like this, having them join us if in the role of whether listening in or perhaps stepping up and being a speaker at one of our programs. Jesse, thank you.
No problem. Yeah, literally got off of the career pivot chat with Darrell Smith and was like, I have the perfect follow-up to him. So hope you guys enjoyed. I will also say, as someone who does take jabs and isn't a jabs instructor, it is a great workout. So if you are looking to try it, definitely do. And I can promise it's not just for like one skill set. Like if you're a beginner in the world of fitness or kickboxing, join it anyway. You might look stupid trying to do the choreography. I know sometimes I do, but the good thing is you're at home alone. So you don't need to be seen by anyone except for Allie or Gina or one of the other instructors, because
Not even, you can keep your camera off if you
or
want.
turn the camera off. But it's more fun with the camera. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure Allie probably sees me like dancing like a dummy sometimes when I'm like just in
The
between.
thing is, there's so many people on the other end. There's like, at least 100 and something people on a Zoom. I cannot really take the time to watch somebody like flail. Like there's no time. Like you can't, they're too little.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely try it, you guys. It's a fun class.
All right, Marcus, you want to officially close us out?
You're on mute, maybe.
Did we just talk about this?
Yeah, I can't figure it out. I'm not used to unmuting myself in person to speak. But what I was saying is I really don't want to end this out, but it is 8 a.m. Your schedule permits. We typically do have a small group of people that stay on, continue to have a conversation. Our breakfast club typically is focused around community. It doesn't have to be around speaking about jabbers. We want to see how you guys are doing. Want to give you some laughs. Cooper usually has good news for the day. So please stay on. Once again, Gina and Ali, you are unbelievable entrepreneurs. I see you guys doing great things. Well, you're already doing great things. I just see you guys making a big impact in the fitness community. And like I mentioned earlier, please leverage all the resources in our community, Linda, Roger, Eileen, Marcus, and many others. And thank you again for sharing your hour with us to share your story.
Good job.
Thank
Awesome.
you.